Good evening and welcome back to the Insight, of course, at GBS TV Africa. This is the Insight where it's the home of politics. We discuss issues that are affecting you one-on-one, of course, through the eyes and through the minds, of course, of different stakeholders. Today we have such stakeholders who will help us in elucidating the things, the happenings in the political scene. And we thank you so much for joining the Insight tonight. Well, Kenyans voted in August in their 5th presidential elections since the introduction of multi-party democracy in 1991. The competitiveness of the elections and uncertainty over the outcome distinguishes Kenya from many of its neighboring countries, while President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta is stepping down. And as this is happening, of course, following the completion of his constitutionally limited 2 terms, this too makes Kenyan elections noteworthy, given this recent trend of African leaders sidestepping term limits as a means of extending the time in power to the detriment of stability. Rather, Kenya has a tradition of transfer of powers, even between candidates from opposing sides. Well, this with many other issues we are going to discuss on the Insight tonight as we make a postmortem of the Kenya 2022 general elections that has seen the election of President William Samoei Ruto. Well, quite an interesting time to be in Kenya. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on the Insight. For the sake of my viewers who are joining us for the first time, well, I have George Ndawa, who is a political commentator, joining me on the show tonight. Thank you so much, Mr. George Ndawa, for accepting my invite. We also have Mr. Samuel Masika. Mr. Samuel Masika is a political analyst. Of course, both of them are not so... They're actually familiar in this show. They're not guests. But thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us once again. Well, we're speaking in a different era. I don't know, what's generally your postmortem of the 2022 general elections? Because I've called you sometimes back, and the things that you were telling Kenyans, please vote in leaders that will ensure that whatever you ask them to do, that is exactly what they're going to do. Whatever you send them to go to do, be it in parliament, be it in county assembly, even in presidency. You told Kenyans to vote wisely. Now my question is, have the Kenyans voted wisely? Let me start with you, Mr. Masika.
Thank you very much, Kwach, for having us back to the show. And I think I think time has vindicated me, because previously I was vouching for the leadership of the president-elect, that is William Samoei Ruto, and looking at, and I kept saying that he was saying things that resonates with the Kenyan voter. And I think having gone to the ballot, this election was really fair. I participated in the election back in the village, looked at how the processes were, how people came out in large numbers. I know there has been reservations as to how many people came out to vote, but I think the percentage as indicated by percentage turnout as indicated by IBC still indicates that a good number of voters came out to vote, and this election was a very nice one where voters would easily follow up on the results, be able to know if you want to, you have questions about any polling station, you would easily follow up. So I want to say, I think Kenyans have made their choice. And being a democratic society, then again, it is the majority will have their way and the minority will have their say. So the only thing that I think the president-elect should do is to make everybody comfortable. That is reconciliation. But I'm not vouching for an handshake. I'm just saying everybody should feel comfortable that they express their will, and then we need to be able to work together. Because one of the things that we lacked in the previous last 5 years is somebody to put another in check. And so I am glad because William Ruto clearly said that everybody will have to play their role. If you are in opposition, then you are in opposition, and so that we move forward. Everybody is checking another's performance. So I think this election was quite good, and even places Kenya on the African pedestal. It's a model country for other African countries to be able to follow, and even especially our own East African neighbors. I think they have something to emulate from our Kenyan election and how we choose our leaders.
Mr. Jijindawa, as you looked into your screens or wherever you are, as people performed the political exercises, be it as voters, as politicians, who are seeking votes, or just looking generally at the architecture of Kenyan election, what is your review?
Well, I think Kenyan politics has some center of attraction which makes it very unique to so many countries. And that is why you see, or you have heard people say, and in fact, if you do a good check, you will realize that in Kenya, elections cost us a lot of money. It's almost like 3 times other countries, 2 times other countries. Looking at how much money the electoral body, IEBC, uses, and put aside IEBC, what even candidates are using. So it means that there is a higher stake that make people use whatever amount of money they can to get the seats that they are vying for, and that will give you another dimension of thought. That think around it, that you are an MP, you are vying for an MP position, and you can use over 200 million to vie for that seat, and you wonder how much money are you going to get per month on that, or is there something hidden that many of us do not know? You are fighting to become a president or a governor or a senator. A president can use even over 30 billion to get that office. How much money does a president earn per month that makes him go there, use such a huge magnitude of money to get that position? So our election is teaching me on what next to think after this, because if it is, I'm a firm believer, let me tell you also that I'm a firm believer of competitions. And it can be as severe as possible, because that is what life is all about. That is how people can get the best person on the seat. So, but then after that firm competition, what did we come out with? That is where my next question is: what's our way forward in our next elections? Because it seems like in our 2 or 3 more elections to come, it will be too expensive to vie for an MCA position.
I don't know what you think. You believe that you have the same thought, because actually there are times I was seeing that there were people who didn't have anything, absolutely, who went, of course, and even garnered more votes than those who had millions.
I think maybe to just observe from what George is saying, this election I have seen people who had totally nothing being elected. We have followed that. We've seen even, is it called Manyala from Western Kenya was elected, and he had nothing, and he's currently an MP. If you look at the young people who have been elected, because young people we've been saying we do not have the financial wherewithal to campaign against the people who have had money all the time. And carefully speaking, I think this election was not about money. I think there's been this old notion that you need money to bribe voters. That has been happening, but I think in this election that it kind of changed, because the many people who have been elected, I have seen very young people being elected and they didn't have money, and that really impressed me. My brother also had said that a president can use even up to 30 billion. I think that is an overstatement. It can be a lot of money, like it can't get to 30 billion.
Okay, sure. Mr. George, Mr. Philip, Mr. Masika, actually, sorry, was actually said that percentages of those that talked about percentages of those who voted and those who did not vote. And we understand that there was around 22 million registered voters.
Yes.
But out of them, we had around 14 million who voted. Almost 65% as recorded by IBC.
Yeah.
Do you believe that the percentages of those who voted against those who did not vote kind of affected the general outcome of the voting, the election?
Well, this is my take on the percentages on votes.
Will it even be different if all of them actually voted?
No, this is my take on voter percentages. We may register even half the population of the country, but the few that will vote, those are the people who will elect even for those who didn't vote their leaders. If you have less people voting, or let me say even 40% of the registered voters vote, then those 40% will bring the leaders that will govern the country for the next 5 years. So for me, the biggest question would be, why do we have voter apathy? Why are people not interested in voting? Because even when we are doing opinion polls, you cannot go to everybody. You just sample a few people here and there, and then scientifically they represent the whole voter blocks. So then, if 20% vote and they bring you the president, that's a legitimate president, because not voting is actually voting against what you don't want. So for me, I would not look at the numbers that voted and how they affect the voting, but I would just find a question: why would people not be interested? Because then it means there is something happening in the political terrain or the voting system that the country is not in touch with. And that is what now the political class need to address.
Do you have something to talk about the voter apathy before we move now to the transition itself?
I think looking at the trends there's no much deviation. I think I started voting in 2007, and looking at the trends, even the almost 65% recorded by IEBC this year, is not really a bigger deviation from what has been happening historically in the history of voting. So what I'm thinking, we may look at it as voter apathy, but I think that is on the extreme. But people always come out to vote. Of the registered number of voters, when you register as a voter doesn't mean that you'll actually come out and vote, because again, it's a democratic society. Is when you want or when you're willing to come and vote. So the turnout that came out, I think one of the things that I really agree with George is that anybody who comes out to vote, if you don't vote, you vote anyway. And if you vote, then you express your will. But for those of us who normally stay back and they don't vote, that is a shortcut for you voting for somebody maybe who you do not want, because supporters of the other person will come out. Another thing that has been disturbing the voting terrain in the country has been this notion that somebody will rig another in. And so people get comfortable, and I think in this election I've seen a trend like that one. So you think so-and-so is supported by the deep state, so-and-so is supported by the state, and so you sit back waiting for that candidate to be endorsed or be, so that there's some malice to get your candidate across, so you sit home and relax. I think in this election there was something like that, and so many people came out to express themselves, and then others did not, and that would disadvantage another and also get another one going through. So I think we need to be careful as Kenyans and not speculate and just come out and express our will.
And since you're talking about you're bringing in the aspect of a deep state,
yes.
Since you're making a general postmortem of the Kenyan elections 2022,
yeah. general
elections,
yeah.
well, if I may ask, do you think that this notion that the deep state was going to regain someone,
yeah.
because seemingly the
yeah.
president was supporting one of the candidates, the presidential candidates, do you think, or how generally did it actually affect the voters' perception? Could it be that those who supported that candidate, some of them might have been reluctant to vote?
Yeah.
Maybe the other part, I don't know.
Quite as we speak today, many of my friends who are supporting Raila Odinga are in shock, and they are suffering from, they have even mental issues. We've not been able to discuss even comfortably because they don't understand how Raila Odinga did not become president, having been supported by the incumbent president, having been lent. I think technically speaking, the government machinery was at his disposal, and so some of his supporters, speculatively speaking, some of his supporters sat back and thought that that would work in their favor. And that's why you look at voter turnout, even in his own stronghold, leave alone the Nyanza region, some others stronghold where Raila Odinga is supposed to have gotten almost overwhelming support, it did not come out well, because then people they got comfortable thinking that this guy will go forward, because I think in the previous election the history has been that something is not right about this election, so and so will be rigged in, so and so, you know, he's being supported by the state, disadvantaging the other person who does not have access to the government machinery. But I think in this election, maybe the state and the deep state, speculative deep state, as was spoken of, it's non-existent, which the deputy president kept saying, there is no deep state. If there was only any, I would tell you. So I think there's nothing like that, and I think even looking back then, this election has just been, we've just been voting, and it's expressive of our will.
I don't think the deputy president said there was no deep state, because I remember while he was in Chatham House saying that the system wants to but anyway, that's a conversation for another time, where I'll call you so that we can discuss actually where was the system really there. Was it a mirage? Because these are questions that people are asking themselves, even at this time, that the deep state candidate has been beaten. Well, there's a question that many Kenyans are asking. Mr. Ndawa, President Uhuru Kenyatta is stepping down, and this is following the completion of his constitutionally limited 2 terms in office. And we see this as a very interesting trend, a very interesting happening in Kenya, because there's a recent trend in African countries whereby leaders do not want to step out of office after their terms has ended. I don't know what you think about this in our democracy as Kenyans, because we're doing this regardless of whether you are supporting the candidate or not, because President Uhuru Kenyatta said that he will hand over power, smiling, although he knows his leader is Raila Amolo Odinga. He says so. So I don't know what you think this actually means to the democracy of our country, Kenya, and generally, what do you think about the transition during this time?
Well, I believe that Kenya is progressively maturing in democracy. And I'm not taking for granted the developments we have had since 1992, when Section 2A was struck out our constitution. And we know very well that even during that time, there are people who didn't want Section 2A to be struck out the Constitution. Most of them became the beneficiaries, and actually those who opposed it all have become even presidents and enjoyed the powers therein, when they know very well that if it were not that what people fought for to be struck off the constitution, they wouldn't have even come closer to it in any way. But President Uhuru Kenyatta going home is a good sign. I know of many countries where a president is there for life. Only death would take him away from that. And there are also fears that, you know, when you get a lot of powers, even in a democracy like now where we are in Kenya, people can still try to twist the constitution. And that is why we need some balance in the parliament, so that it can help us do, the parliament cannot be used to rubber stamp for the executive. You know, if you have a parliament that is behaving like they belong to a president, then it means that country can even go on its nose, because they will sing what the president wants. That is why our neighboring countries, or some countries in Africa, I don't want to mention names, some countries in Africa would be even going to, they have even changed constitutions to an extent that a president, people will elect members of parliament, and then the parliament will elect the president. And you know how dangerous that is. So my fear would be, if our judiciary and parliament don't exercise their independence the right way, then it's very dangerous for our country.
Mr. Masika, I want us to look at the court's decision to uphold the deputy president's win, as stated by IEBC, on the election that was held on September 9th of this month. Kenyans were kind of calm, because I look at the other election that we have had from 2007, 2013, 17, all the ones that we've had, they have not been quite peaceful. They have come with chaos, a bit of chaos, after the announcement of results. And that which we saw actually that happened in 2017 led to the annulment of that election. So in 2022, we're seeing kind of a Kenyans who are peaceful. Some saying that this is not peace. This is a people that are tired. Because even in the Luo Nyanza, where even Bonda was watching television, and people were kind of calm and saying that we're ready to work with the government that is there. My question is that, do you think that this is maturity in our democracy, or this is a resignation? Because even from the opposition sides, we could tell that they wanted things to go to normal.
First of all, to pick up from where George has left, that because it will connect still with what you're asking, Kenya it's progressively growing, and Kenyans have a way of keeping themselves in check. And so if you look at how events unfold in the country, you can quickly say that Kenya has a way of keeping itself in check. Even as greedy, anybody can get greedy. I think there were elements that wanted to even purport that Uhuru is too young to go home. You remember such sentiments. And then now the BBI was kept in check. I think I like what he said, because now the judiciary came in, part of the parliament came in, and they said we need to keep the constitution. Let's implement this constitution holistically, and then we move forward. So what I think about this election that just ended, you know what Chebukati did, or I can see the IEBC, he was so open and transparent. I know that some people will go against what I'm saying. He would say, if you want the same results that are in the portal are the same results that I will announce. Kwach, I participated in some processes to just know who would have gotten many votes and who would have gotten less. And if you look at the voting and the process, a polling station would finish voting and they upload the form. You want to clarify of a polling station that you have questions, you just go to the portal, click download. Of course, there were questions by Azimio la Umoja, but again, the questions were not they could not be proved clearly because of the same form that was put in the portal. Another form was brought physically at IEBC and they tally. So if you say that somebody hacked the portal, how did they hack the physical form that somebody was bringing on the road? And so those are the things that brought comfort among the Kenyans, and Kenyans were really comfortable. And again, another conversation that we've been having informally is Kenyans were looking at, we were coming from BBI, after BBI we went to COVID-19, after COVID-19 now the campaigns, and so some of the economic things, and again, even the food prices were so high. So again, we were brought together because whatever was ailing Kenya could not spare anybody. So we were brought together, all of us, and then we just thought, let the leader that is elected be everybody's leader. And that is what informed the cabinet.
Mr. George Ndao, I want us to go into the Supreme Court judgment. Of course, a judge of a bench of 7 judges. And they gave a judgment through Martha Koome upholding the presidency of William Samoei Ruto. And thereafter there was public debate that the language that was used by the Supreme Court judges in the judgment, it was kind of not a good language. Generally, I don't know. It was there on Twitter, Mr. Masika.
I understand.
Yeah, you understand that.
Yes.
But I don't know. What do you think are the issues in this in this judgment? And how would the judges? How could they have done it better? If at all there was.
Mr. Kwach, remember, right now I'm not talking as a campaigner or somebody who is campaigning. So I will be speaking things that should be and things that are. And if you could also ask me the question of if Kenyans are calm or they are just tired. I wanted to give you just one thing so whoever is listening can meditate on that. I don't want to give a conclusion.
Sure.
In 2002, 2 communities voted against all Kenyans. 2002. Counting began, and after finishing the first half of counting the votes, the competitor came out and said, I'm already beaten squarely. 2 tribes, 2 communities voted against the whole Kenya. That pattern since 2000 has not changed up to now. If you look at even the chart that the TVs were displaying, it's the same pattern. In 2007, not 2000, 2005, when there was a referendum which was beaten, the same pattern. 2 tribes voted against the whole Kenya. And they were beaten squarely again there. So the game started changing in 2007. When people didn't accept the way it happened, because the previous times there was no problem. When they voted, the win was a win and the loss was a loss. But 2007, now the win changed. The voting pattern didn't change, but the win and the loss changed. 2013, the same thing. The pattern is still the same, even to 2017 and 2022. The pattern is still the same. So now the problem is that the number of people are still the same, because I want to believe that the growth of families is the same around Kenya. It's not that there are some tribes that are dying and others are growing. So numbers would be even. So if the pattern of voting is still the same, why would the win be different right now? Put that aside. Let's go. Now that is somebody's food for thought.
I have, I've lost me.
Oh, okay.
What I'm saying is, we have not moved the communities from where they are to go live in other areas. People are still staying where they are, and the voting pattern is one.
Sure.
it is the same. And do you know what advised the voting pattern? It's because of the historic injustices that has been done by the two tribes that have been sitting in the incumbency.
Okay.
So that has advised the reason why many of those who have been left out of the country's development, and, or let me use the word cake, like they have been using it, they have been voting in one direction since 2002 up to now. Only that for two occasions, 2002 and 2005, the win was it was clear. But now it's been orchestrated in different ways since 2007 up to now. And that is why I'm telling you, people are calm. And calmness doesn't mean peace. And whoever doesn't believe that can bury his head in the sand, but wait for the times. Because I'm telling you, there are generations. You see, this generation right now, after 3 more elections, that is 15 years, a different generation will come. They will not be as patient as we are, and they will not be cowed. The reason why we are cowed right now, there are a lot of narratives that are going on that stigmatize other communities. And those are the things that people who do not want to face the realities don't want to stand in the air, in the open, and speak them. If we go to the judgment in the courts, professionalism is supposed to be square. And you had never had a situation where a complainant accuses someone in court, and the court uses somebody who is accused words that the way they defended themselves is the right. The way this is the way the accused is saying, and then they conclude that what the accused has said is right, and they read another count and they say, and the complainant said this, and then the accused said this, and the accused is right, and this is hogwash, and this is. There is something really wanting that me and you will not unearth, and there are some things we cannot talk about on air like this, because some of them will be sorted by nature. They will be sorted by nature. Some of us will speak words protective and good words. I'm not a very good orator. But I usually hit my points, and I don't know how to sugarcoat them. So I usually just bring my words. Somebody may be good in words, in oratory, and can bring words that are really nice and beat me even in a debate. But in a long term, if you come to see what is going to happen, and my cases are there in the open, you can say if it's a lie or not. Whatever things, the examples that are giving, things that have been there. So if the courts continue like this, number one, not even from next time, even right now, many people do not believe we have an independent court. Many people do not believe that. And when there is no justice, when there is no, if you remove justice in a society, everyone will be his own judge, and will be punishing people who are against him on his own.
Quite an interesting.
On the same point, I would like to say something.
We're going for a short break, kindly, Mr. Masika. Then we're coming back, of course, even to touch more on that, because it talks about. He says that there is no justice, and. My question that I actually ask you, Mr. Masika, is that do you believe that the judgment that was given by the court, was it based on the report, or actually the evidence that was given by the Azimio, or do you think
it was influenced?
That it was influenced, yes.
No, I'll answer that when we come back.
Well, we're going for a short break, and of course, this is the Insight. Please stay with us. This is GBS TV Africa. And 21144, that is our SMS line at GBS TV Africa to Eugene Chienkwad. That is where you get to find us and get to interact and talk to us. Thank you for continuing to be with us in this conversation.
Everywhere, GBS.
With this live broadcast, and of course, this is the insight. We talk matters politics as we continue to deliberately teach you, educate you, and elucidate issues around politics and, of course, on economics, but issues that affect you one-on-one as a Kenyan citizen, of course, through the eyes of different stakeholders. Tonight, I'm joined by Samuel Masika, a political analyst, and of course, George Ndao, who is also a political analyst. They're joining me on the show tonight. I'm still with them on the show tonight, and we're discussing about the politics, that is the transition politics, the 2022 general elections, giving it a post-mortem look through the eyes. What is there in this transition politics? What are these two things, or maybe one, or maybe three, that you can pick from the general elections? And what can we do to improve our elections going further? Well, all these through the eyes of these two gentlemen. Mr. Masika, you were telling us you had an objection with what Mr. Ndao had, his opinion generally.
One of the things that I want to appreciate about the Kenyan society, I think we have been growing, and I don't know our age difference with George, but I think I might be in another generation. And if you look at the voting pattern, as people, as those of us in our 30s and 20s, we are not thinking tribal.
Okay.
We are not thinking tribal. And so anybody can vie anywhere and win. We don't care. But if you look at people like now my father will start telling you so and so is not from this land. So we are getting out of that as we move forward. So I think if you look at the elections that maybe George is referring to, because I was getting uncomfortable when he was talking about how tribes go versus each other, and then again, you know, we are on live TV. I didn't feel really comfortable, but I think as we move forward, we are growing as a country. Back to your question on the ruling of the Supreme Court on this election. Kwach, I would like to submit that if you look at the IEBC, I've already said that the IEBC was so open and transparent, and so that if you are so uncomfortable with how they were doing things, then the law has provided mechanisms for you to get an interpretation of all the issues that you think are not clearly taken care of from the IEBC. Okay. I took time to follow the proceedings at the Supreme Court, and I clearly, on day one when the petitioner was submitting his pleas, I could clearly say that they do not have a strong case. Okay. At some point, if you listen to the bench as they were asking questions, I could guess they have already even made their mind, because you're listening even to the questions and you can comfortably say, I think these guys are already decided, because they are asking. For example, I've told you, if you come to court and say something like somebody hacked the portal and changed the results, then the court asks you, how is it possible that they changed the form in the portal? We're having 7 handwriting, and there's another form that came by the road. How does that affect each other? And then they were tallying at the Bomas of Kenya. And these guys looked at the forms, compared, the results were matching. Again, there are reservations that the petitioner raised, and then they mentioned even polling stations where they thought they needed to be able to do what? To verify the results as announced by IEBC. Okay. That was done by the court, and again, there was no strong case by the petitioner. And if you listen to, you know, again, the only thing that we are saying, we are questioning the language, and you know, we are a people. English is not even our primary language, and even us, we are trying to pick words to be able to get what you are saying across. Okay. So me personally, I think it when somebody says that you brought in a lot of things, but having looked at all that, there's nothing substantial as to annul this election or to rule as you had asked. Okay. So we consider this out here. Yes. You know, just saying, what you brought was not enough. So those are the words that we are having. And again, Coach, as I finish, in the same ruling, when the summary ruling, I remember the Deputy CJ said that today it is in our understanding that a number of Kenyans are not comfortable with the decision that we've made. Because technically, IBC, the Supreme Court, was to go with what IBC had said or refuse what IBC had said. That is to uphold or annul. So the petitioner's plea was to annul the election. So there is no way he would be satisfied with a decision contrary to annulment. So I think those are the things that are prevailing. And as far as I'm concerned, because now let's assume, how do we have William Ruto compromising the IEBC and again compromising the Supreme Court? Quite, I even watched again the election at the Senate, the Senate, when they wanted to elect the Senate Speaker. I saw their smear faction moving out of the Senate, saying that they were given the CV of Amason Kingi late. Amason Kingi is somebody who has been serving with these people. Quite today, if you're proposed for a position, am I supposed to doubt that you're educated? You know, some things are just logical and you understand. So, but again, what I'm saying, it is very easy. It is very easy for, in a contest, as George says, for the loser, or not really, for the person who did not get it to feel not fairly treated. It is what it is in a contest.
Okay.
Yeah.
58 years later, after independence, not winning presidency, no one would like to be associated to the opposition. The presidency has got quite some connotations, like it is our time to eat, that it is now time for these people, because they are the people at their time. Mr. Mdawa, no one wants to be associated to opposition. We're even seeing some moving from Azimio la Umoja and joining the government. What could this mean, generally?
You know, that is one of the problems that we are having. When I started, I said that it would be dangerous if we get into the office and with too much power, and maybe the parliament has some majority which is overwhelming, that can change even the constitution or some policies without being checked, because you don't just check by seeing, you have to have the numbers to counter. So if we have a parliament that is full of like it is right now, I'm just praying that they use this nicely, that we have all the speakers are coming from the same party, and the same party from the executive, and they kind of don't look like they are independent, because when you listen to them, even from their campaigning time, the rhetorics don't prove that they are independently thinking and can bring anything meaningful which their executive doesn't agree with. So then that becomes very dangerous. But if it is used positively, it can be also very good for a country. So for me, the reason why people, you see, a scramble for joining the winning team is because of greed. It is personal, purely personal greed. Because if you knew that you think like them, why didn't you join them before? But if you knew that you don't think like them, you want to bring your own idea, now where are those ideologies? Where do they go? Because once you join somebody, then your ideologies die. So then, what does that mean to the country? It means like that we have people who went in there to scramble for something that they know in them. That's why I was saying that there could be something in there that for us, people outside parliament or those elective positions, we do not know. We may sing for them because they resonate. We resonate with what they say, but deep within, we do not know what they're doing in there. All of a sudden, you just see them driving huge cars, they
So
build big
Mr.
homes,
Mr. Judge,
they have big things, you know.
Mr. Judge, when you see those who were in Azimio joining the government, don't you think that this is a progress in a democracy?
No, it is not. Democracy is not shelving your ideas which you sold to the electorate. It is shortchanging the electorate. You see, when the electorate abandoned people who were ascribing to that team and gave you that position, they didn't give you that position so that you can change and join those people. They gave you so that you can take the ideas or what interests them, what interested them. You sold to them some ideas which they agreed with. One day into parliament, you have jumped to another party. That is immaturity in the individual people, and it is greed, and it is selfishness, and it is backwardness. It is pulling democracy to the dogs.
Okay, Mr. Masika,
maybe to respond, pre-election coalitions were being formed, and I remember some of these parties, the small parties that are moving and joining Kenya Kwanza today, had cried foul when that, I think we discussed that on this show, because those small political parties, they felt even shortchanged, as is saying, in Azimio, One Kenya party, the coalition party. They felt shortchanged. That's why people like Alfred Mutua, I think they walked out, but there are others who felt like they should just remain there. So I don't know what would have happened, because even Raila Odinga, when he was campaigning, he had already a pre-election coalition agreement. One of his friends was supposed to become the speaker. One of the other friends was supposed to become of the Senate and the National Assembly. Another one was supposed to become chief minister. He had already even given out some positions of Ministry of Land. And then what are we saying? When, for example, you're looking for power, then, and even you look at how those positions were distributed, then they wanted to capture the aspirations of Kenyans or representation of communities in the country. I do not think that Wetangula is going to sit in parliament and disadvantage the opposition in favor of the executive. And William Ruto has been on record. He even said immediately on his acceptance speech, he said that the opposition was supposed to remain opposition. I don't know, maybe I would contradict myself, because at the same time he has accepted some people from small parties to join. But I think that was just to push the agenda, because he has said Wetangula will become the speaker. How do you make that one possible? You have to marshal numbers. Kingi will become the speaker. You have to marshal numbers. But I think going forward, and I'm one person who believes...
let me just ask you this before you go on.
Yes.
There's a conversation about speakers.
Yeah.
What is even a debate on who should be the speaker, where the speaker should be coming from? What is the importance of a speaker in actually in executing government policies generally?
I think on this, the speaker is just a moderator of the county, not the county assembly, but the National Assembly and the Senate. And so they preside over issue, but there are times where the speaker actually has to judge and be able to bring in sobriety. We've seen even sometimes the speaker would cut off a debate and they just say, let's vote over this issue. So you kill debate over an issue. And then sometimes again the executive might come in with and then one thing that you have to know, Kwach, the opposition will always question everything that the government is saying, good or bad. And so for the government to move forward, they will need somebody to support some of the agendas. Let's say, for example, William Ruto said that he's going to lay, I don't know, 100 kilometers of fiber, what is it called? The internet cable for the country. What if that does not augur well with the Azimio faction of the parliament? He will need somebody to have that one approved, especially in the budgeting. So the speaker will just preside over. If the things get comfortable, maybe he will feel we have the advantage of numbers, let's just vote over this issue, then we'll go through. And then again, you see, even in the committees that will be there, you need representation as the executive. But one of the things that I would want to agree with George, and even as we go forward, I would pray, and this was a campaign agenda of William Ruto, that there would be clear separation of powers between the arms of government. Let the judiciary do their job, let the legislature do their job, and also the executive should also do their job.
Okay.
So again, I've not answered your question on Mtwetu, or Mtwetu thing. I think in the Kenyan aspirations, I think it feels nice when, for example, people from Western Kenya feel one of us is in government. Power is prestigious. It makes you feel nice, it makes you feel represented, it makes you feel honored. I don't think that has anything to do with malice or maybe stealing, and or maybe as my brother was saying, so that you're stealing to enrich yourself or to enrich your community. I think what he was saying was really pronounced during Moi's time, and maybe going forward. When we came to 2013, I think I've seen balanced regional development, even in areas where people did not support the government in power. Development projects have been taken to those other areas, and that is already taken care of by the equalization fund, which William Ruto has committed that they are going to operationalize. Even if somebody will refuse to take care of some marginalized area, then that fund will work there. We have the county government, we have the county assembly. That will balance out things. I don't think the only problem that we had is refusal to hand over devolved functions to the county governments. So that is going to happen, and things will go well.
Okay, Mr. Ndara, I'd love us to delve now into opposition, because actually as we are talking, there's a topic about the opposition that stands out so well, and there's so many things, so many questions that maybe Kenyans are asking. How will the opposition work with its chair as the outgoing president, number one, and actually with some in Azimio joining the government? What kind of an opposition do we expect? For all that, we're going to discuss into depth after this short break. Well, we're going for another short break, but of course we'll be right back, so stay put and don't touch the dial.
everywhere, GBS.
Thank you for joining us once again. This is the Inside. The room was quite hot while on a break. Now almost pounced on Masika. But anyway, Mr. Ndaha, my question to you is that what do we foresee in the opposition? What kind of opposition do we expect with numbers from the Azimio moving to government? And I think the numbers is reducing with day in and day out. And of course we have a president, an outgoing president as its chair. What do you think?
Number one, I would say that we don't have an opposition in Kenyan constitution. That is number one. We have majority and minority. So the minority, if more of the minority will be moving to the ruling party,
The majority, to join the majority.
Joining the majority, I see danger. I see danger in the sense that they must have been lured by some situations and all circumstances. They are not just walking in saying, now we are joining this because this. And if they are joining, what is it that is attractive there which makes them go there? So the danger that I'm seeing is that we will risk even having our constitution mutilated to a way that we will not, because that is a bad sign of democracy. It's like if all of them cross, then we are only going to have one party that is ruling the country, and we don't want that to happen in Kenya. That is why those who fought, those who are there to fight for Section 2A to be repealed, did the fight, because the ills and the wrongs that were happening in a single party democracy were not good and were not developmental for this country. We want a country where vibrancy or exchange of good ideas come. Even if you don't agree with my idea, you are not my enemy. We can disagree during campaigns, but once we come there, let's critique things positively, not negatively. But moving out of your party to another party, I told you, man, that is dangerous. It is that greed taking those people there means that anything that will be proposed by that party they are joining, the majority, will be a yes. They will be voting yes whether it is wrong or good. Okay. So that is a big danger for our country. Let the minority be minority and the majority be majority, so that there is, when people are voting, there is a requirement of 2/3 majority.
So what are these tactics that actually they should employ as the opposition, you call them minority, to ensure that the work is done?
The minority, there are parts where the majority will be taking away, because there are some easy ones which are not so much touching into the constitution. But there are some that are touching the constitution which need 2/3 majority voting yes. So if already somebody has lured these people and the majority is already having more than 2/3 in the House, my friend, this country is for all of us, and I will not speculate. I will not say things that are just spoken of out of excitement of a win or a loss. I will say things that we will need and we don't need as they are. That if we do that, the danger is that somebody will think with powers and say, can I just wipe these guys and they can come and change this constitution or propose for a constitutional change. And once it goes through the parliament, it is easy to go and pass also at the Senate, because they also have the same overwhelming numbers there.
Okay, Mr. George, before I come to Mr. Masika, Mr. George, I'm asking also that with President Uhuru Kenyatta at the helm of the Azimio leadership, because you see, he's an is an outgoing president.
Yes.
What do you make of such a position with the leadership of the president?
I think that they were doing during their campaigns. And now that the campaigns are over, a lot of things are going to change. And we may not expect him to be still the Azimio leader all the way to even 10 years from now. So what we expect is he was what I knew is that he was giving a leadership so that they can go get what they needed to get. So if they failed, or even if they would have gotten it, it would be the same thing, because he being an ex-president, he can sit there as an advisor. I mean, why do we Kenyans think that once a president is out of office, so we don't need him? He's still our taxpayer, but he's still an elder.
We can't we can't speculate whether he'll be there or not, because as it stands, he's still the chair of Azimio.
Yeah, being the chair of Azimio just means that he will be chairing their meetings.
Will that not affect the opposition, because they will be told that while you are in government, pointing at them, because their leader was in government as the president. So while you were in government, you did this and this and this, and you let us have all these bills. Actually, there are a lot of pending bills, billions, running billions. So they'll be told that because you were in government, your leader was in government, you would not have any moral authority to lecture us on what to do.
But do you know that even that time that he was there, when those bills were being introduced, they still had the majority. The parliament, you could hear them even pronounce such even in public rallies, that they have the majority. Why didn't they use those majorities those times to do such? So for me, what I'm thinking is that a lot of things are going to change, and the outgoing president is going to be another citizen just like me and you, and he will not be concentrating much on Azimio politics. That one I can guarantee you, and we can come back here to debate after 1 year.
I will just ask the danger of having the top leadership of Azimio
as an outgoing president.
No, taking a backseat. Because actually, in as much as he has been, he's an outgoing president, but I think that he has got much influence. Still wields a lot of influence that actually can wield and tell them, no, this is the way, let us do it this way. And of course, we have Mzee. It's quite retiring. I don't know what you think about this.
First of all,
yes.
I think I'm sitting down here and I'm listening to George, and I'm getting further confused. The 2010 Constitution of Kenya is self-guarding. This constitution is not easy to change. You remember the BBI. If you wanted to change this constitution, first of all, you go through the parliament, as he's saying. After even him, George, he can just go to court and say that this change that you want is not sustainable, or it's not correct, it's illegal.
Sure.
Now, one of the other things that I would want to ask, William Ruto, when he was campaigning to become the president of this republic, he had a manifesto. Do you have any of the points on that manifesto that is a threat to the constitution of this country, or to the unity and the cohesion of the people of this country? Of course, there isn't any. The other thing that I was saying, this constitution, when we talk about the arms of government, we have the executive, we have the legislature, and we have the judiciary. All these arms of government have clear-cut responsibilities that they are supposed to play as we move forward. Even as we look at the minority and majority, the legislature, all of it, plays the role of being what? Oversight role. So I'm not understanding, because we have picked MPs, and I don't think they are morons. Those people have brains. So if William Ruto, for example, let's say the executive, let me stop mentioning him. If the executive is going to come up with intentions that are ill or affect this country negatively, do you think those MPs, even those that are supporting him, will they just sit and do nothing? They won't, because those people, we have picked them, we understand that they have their brains.
Okay.
Actually, as the system is, you're asking us what strategy the opposition will use. We do not need the opposition, we only need sobriety in the National Assembly, because the chairman of the Azimio, that is Uhuru Kenyatta, and Raila Odinga, as constitutionally, they have no responsibility after the 2022 election. So what they do, either through caucusing and marshalling of numbers, if something comes up that they do not like, they will call their faction and talk to them, and then their faction now will go back to parliament, and then they will have a back and forth until they have an understanding.
Okay.
So that's how I look at things, and I don't think we should really fear, because this 2010 constitution gives the commoner, me and George here, the power to even walk to court and say what the parliament is doing. I've seen people even stop proceedings and even investigations just by going to court and saying this is illegal, you can't do. And then the court does what? Unless now you give me an express way which the executive is going to use to muzzle the judiciary and at the same time muzzle the National Assembly. So I don't think there's any, and again, it's also speculative to start fearing like that.
Okay.
Let this guy work and then we see how he works.
Okay. Gentlemen, I want us to because as we're doing this post-mortem, I also want us to get into talk about the president, the president-elect. That is the deputy president right now, William Samoei Ruto. Actually, he is the first deputy president, man of his status, to ascend to the presidency after his mentor Daniel Arap Toroitich Moi. That is in 1978, August, after the death of his successor. And I want us to look into the politics of the deputy president, William Samoei Ruto. Now that is the rise of a hustler, from a chicken seller to a president. Is this man tactically genius, or is it luck? Is it prayer? That is a question I want us to answer on the show. I'll start with you, Mr. Ndawa. Let us talk about the personality of this man. Let us leave everything, but just the politics of how he has actually ensured that the dynasty has fallen. I don't know. I don't know. But the people watching, Chege Anthony is saying Mr. Masika is a huge inspiration to young people. You always have so many people following you.
I've dealt with young people.
So he's wise in analysis. He's my mentor in many ways. And of course, Kamau Nelly, we were with him. He was also an economist, and political analyst. We were with him the other time. He says these are great discourse here. He's watching too. And so many others who are streaming live. We thank you so much for staying put as you continue watching. And as we continue educating you, and of course you get to listen to us. Thank you so much for staying with us, and thank you so much for keeping watch. 2144 is our SMS line, and of course at GBS TV Africa at Eugene Chienkwach, you find us there. Mr. Ndawa, the politics of William Samoei Ruto. Is the person of William Samoei Ruto a very tactical person? Is he a genius man? Because this man is going to be sworn in on Tuesday.
William Samoei Ruto is one man who is very focused on what he knows what he wants when.
Yes.
And you have just said it well that his mentor was the late Moi. And do you know, it was perceived that Moi was not as well educated as most politicians of his time. But you can imagine that they never beat him in that game until Section 2A was repealed.
Yes.
And even still then, they didn't beat him how many times? Since 1992 up to 2002. So you can imagine when, and that around 92 is when Ruto also came into politics. So he worked very close with Moi, because I can remember his entry in politics. He entered and he became a minister in the office of the president. So it means that
deputy minister.
Yeah. He was an assistant minister in the office, and assistant minister is a minister. So he was that, and it's because I think if we use the word mentor, he was mentored by Moi, then he was close to him so that he can master the game. And to master the game, he did very well. And I can tell you that he is a kind of a politician who sits here and he can see where he's going, and he can see how the terrain looks like, and he can figure out how to tackle the terrain. Now, because if he didn't know such, he would not be where he is today.
Mr. Nda, William Samoei Ruto stated clearly, I made Raila Odinga the Prime Minister. I made Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta the President. And some people were saying, of course we know them, it was outside there, that we're waiting for William Samoei Ruto to make himself president.
Well, you can make a correction. He said that he made Raila Odinga to be
Prime Minister.
That is debatable.
Okay.
Because Raila is a self-made politician. Even his father was in politics, but his father, he didn't walk along footsteps of his father. He was very then parallel with his father. He was fighting his fight, and his father was on another lane. So Ruto coming into politics would not be the one who makes Raila. Raila would have made Ruto.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quite interesting.
I thought he said he's not playing politics on the show today.
Okay. Anyway,
that is not playing politics.
Let me also think around this. Clearly, William Ruto actually assisted Raila Odinga to become the Prime Minister that is after the election of 2007. We can see that clearly. They worked together. And when he says that he assisted Uhuru to become the president,
not assist, made.
He made. And it's possible to assist and make is still almost the same thing.
It's different.
This guy was waking up 5 a.m. to go and look for votes in 2013. His boss was not there. They would meet later on in the day. Even this time, he made himself the president. Personally, I think values that have made William Ruto to be unadmired. I admire William Ruto. The guy is hardworking. That is clear. We have looked at the documentaries, and some of his young friends, people they went to school with, they are commenting about him. He is very hardworking, and he's been generous. Those are things that we are hearing. And another quality that has made him who he is today, I think William Ruto is fearless. When he wants something, he's not easily cowed. He moves forward and goes with it. I think even having said that he worked closely with Moi, not everybody would work close with Moi, we can agree. You needed to be very confident and with fear and loyal to speak to Moi and also convince him. And I think another thing, William Ruto connects well with people. Somebody was telling me, at some point I was not supporting William Ruto, but when you listen to the guy, you just want to continue listening. He has this charisma. He connects well with people. He comes down. You see, I've seen politicians, when they come to the village and they're asking for votes, they'll sit down there, they want to roast maize with you, but you can clearly see they don't want kids to touch them. But William Ruto will sit there, roast maize with you. He doesn't care if the tea is spilled on him. He's okay with it. He connects well with people. I was looking at, I was following up on this guy called John Maxwell, and he was talking about some of the things that makes a leader. The key thing that he said there is being able to connect well with people. On our previous shows here, I was telling you, when Ruto came out with the hustler narrative, every Kenyan who is of an average earning and maybe middle class, they felt this is our guy. Yes. And he came down to us and asked us to support him. So I think the skill and his ability of being able to connect with people, being hardworking, and also God-fearing. I think many people have labeled him many names, but I see sometimes even when he goes to church, you know, you can see a pretending Christian and a Christian who actually means it. And I've attended even forums where there have been prayers when these guys are praying. You can clearly see this is a genuine. Yanani Ochieng,
Okay.
Today, if I was told to pray and you were told to pray, I can easily say how consistently you pray and how another person does, and how they are connected with God.
Okay.
William Ruto has God with him, and that is why he has become what he is today.
Did you get an answer from for that question? Because I think
What was the question
this went
again?
very off for me.
Well, gentlemen, we have come to the end of the show because of time. The question was about William Samoei Ruto.
Forecast had worked.
Did he make Raila and Uhuru? You see, that was the question.
I can answer.
Those many answers were not coming.
He made it. Raila was very fearful in 2007, even in the negotiation. If it were not for the pressure that William Ruto was putting
Can make a parting shot?
Yeah?
Make a parting shot.
So I think, thank you very much for having us on the show. It's always a good time to meet and exchange insight and ideas. Thank you also for the viewers of GBS TV. I pray that we continue to grow each and every day.
Yes.
So I think we finished the election. I'm urging Kenyans. There are those of us who wanted some leaders to win. Our leaders did not win. I pray that we coalesce together and move forward and build this country. And let's not also speculate. William Ruto is a great leader who can push this country ahead. We have seen him grow as an individual, so I don't think he will grow as an individual and also suppress the country. So let's trust him, let's believe in the manifesto that he said, and we put him on task to implement the things that he said. And I'm glad, even I look forward on Tuesday that we are going to attend the inauguration and just see him become the president. And those who did not support him, please support him as he serves our great country.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Ndao.
The campaigns are over and the election is way behind us. We have a president who is coming in and one who is going out. So it is said that any person who doesn't support his president is like one who holds a gun and shoots himself on the foot. We have the incoming president. All of us as Kenyans, we have to support him because, as a matter of fact, if he fails, we all fail. If he wins, if he does everything successfully, we all succeed. So let us put aside every other thing that was gaggling us during the campaigns. Let us support the incoming president, and let's succeed together with him.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. It was indeed a great discourse, a great conversation having you on the show, talking about the postmortem of the 2022 general elections. And Kenyans, of course, have elected their leaders, and we await to see what actually the leaders that they chose or elected will do to them. And of course, we pray so much that they will indeed do their work as they had said before they were elected. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, those viewing from home, we thank you so much for staying put with us, listening to us, of course, listen to the views of the stakeholders that we brought tonight. We thank you so much for always watching The Insight. My name is Eugene Ochieng Kwach, and this is, of course, The Insight, coming to you live from Good News Broadcasting Studio Headquarters here in Nairobi. Well, on behalf of everyone who has made this happen, we thank you so much. Do have a good night. Until next Friday.